Hello and welcome everybody to my indie game documentary. Thank you for beginning to watch my video. It's awesome. And what I'm gonna teach you today is the history of indie games, how it all started, how indie game developers work, and how they the work is on them, and other things such as what is an indie game definition, or what is it exactly mean. That is not redundant. Kinda, not really. I don't know. Yeah. Indie games. If you ever played any sort of video games, you pretty much know about indie games. I mean, I think we all know Minecraft. That has like bazillions of views on YouTube, and bazillion people play that game.
Oh no. God damn it! 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 You broke the rules!
That's an indie game if you didn't know that, and it just started with some guy in Sweden. He's like, I'm going to make a game. What's it going to be about? That's land. Shut up, it's going to have a sheep. Many famous YouTubers play indie games, like PewDiePie, the most subscribed YouTube channel at the moment.
Haters gonna hate. I laugh cause you skate. This is not my hate. Because I hate your mama's foot. Oh, what the hell? What the hell? What the hell?
He's a gaming channel, and he basically plays whatever games he wants. He can play whatever indie game he wants, and people will be like, this is the best game ever. It's about like pooping out the side of a road. Best game ever. They'll still watch. He gets millions of views. That shows that, you know, indie games are progressing. You know, people like Jacksepticeye and Markiplier don't play that kind of game. The computer is a very powerful tool, and it was bringing out to the masses, the common people. It's like a new technology, and people were like, I want it. It was like when the iPod Touch came out. It's like, holy crap, you could do anything. Then when the computer came out, like the first like Apple II and all them, it was like, I can type and it's not a typewriter. What? Now with all these new computers, now it was the time to make new games and stuff. So big companies now had the technology to make these first games, but also indie game developers were able to make their own games too. And they were kind of like the two guys in the basement, you know, working on stuff. Now, the computers, as you seen with that guy, was like the Apple II and the first IMB computers.
Why buy just a video game from Atari or Intellivision? Invest in the wonder computer of the 1980s for under $300. The Commodore VIC-20. Unlike games, it has a real computer keyboard.
And then later on, computers would be the Acorn BCC and Commodore 64. And that other thing, Sindler X2 Spectrum. Nailed it! Yes, indie game developers had tools to make their own games, except that people didn't really want them. It was because they were very buggy and they weren't good as the big companies that were making their games. They had lots of people working on it. They were able to fix the bugs and everything. So back then, people didn't like indie games because they were full of bugs. But now people don't like them because not because of bugs. Yes, that is an issue, but not entirely so. It's because it's just a lot different.
So this is basically a game about building furniture.
It could be really weird, different, just, you know, made for hipsters, you know? People want to stay away from it and go into more major, popular games such as Call of Duty, Assassin's Creed, those kind of games. However, people don't know that, you know, indie games can be just as fun because they have the same genres as major games. Now with all these technologies making games, video games, like all amazing stuff, coding wasn't really the most, well, you know, made out. Coding languages is kind of complicated. Then came out BASIC, which basically solved that and made it more simpler It made it really easy to learn it, and you can save all your work on like floppy disks, diskettes, and cassettes and all that stuff. BASIC stands short for Beginner's All-Purpose Symbolic Instruction Code. Hallelujah! We can make games now.
I mean, I was always sort of, into video games when I was growing up and such, and I learned how to, like when I started to learn how to program, that sort of seemed to be the way to go with it. It was, you kind of learn to be like, this is cool, I can kind of do it myself and just, kind of express yourself creatively and build something, everything like that. Like there was, some of the books that I looked at were specifically built for making video games, and that was kind of what got me started. Yeah, so I started programming when I was about 10. My dad was like, my dad works in IT at a hospital, and, he just like bring home programming books and such. And I kind of dug into that. My best friend across the street, his mom worked in computer science, so she had some computer books laying around, and I kind of get into that as well. More recently, there's just so many tutorials around on the web, things like Hobby Game Dev and such like that are out there, and it's just so easy to just kind of find out the resources to get started and such. I guess my process is I kind of start with an idea, an idea for a mechanic or a story or something like that, and just, kind of bounce it around in my head until I kind of shake out something that I can kind of start to build, and then, from there it's putting it into Unity or whatever, trying to see how I like it, seeing if it needs to be tweaked or anything, and then slowly just adding in more and more content and features until it starts to get there. Also important is getting feedback on it from people not in the process. So, Twitter is great for that. Having personal connections and knowing people in Chicago is great for that. So, yeah, just, that's definitely something which helps elevate your game from something good to something great.
In the 90s, there were better, more powerful computers, yes, but then there were more expensive tools they had to make the games, like advanced debuggers and optimal thingamabobbers. During this time, 1985 to the 90s, Nintendo has dominated the video game industry with the NES, Super NES, and the N64. Everybody was afraid of these games like Legend of Zelda, Mario, Super Smash Bros. They were like, oh, Super Mario Kart. They were like, oh yes, I love Nintendo basically revived the gaming industry with Mario, the first ever Mario. And what happened with the gaming industry? Well, there was a huge crash in the early 80s. Basically, a lot of major companies, Atari is a major one because they made a really bad game. A lot of companies were pushing out a lot of games too early, many bugs, and they weren't good, and people losing hope in these huge companies. And the game that Atari made, it was E.T. from the movie Extraterrestrial.
Claim Atari brought in at least 9 semi-trucks full of merchandise that was crushed and buried under cement somewhere in the 100-acre landfill. Joe Lewandowski, a garbage company owner at the time, claims he saw what was in one of those trucks.
It was gaming systems and actually the game systems themselves. It was actual cartridges and games, E.T. and so on.
Overall, E.T.'s a fairly disappointing game with very repetitive gameplay, no discernible logic to it, and also pretty unfaithful to the film.
How is this major video game crash in the early 80s relevant to indie games today? Well, a lot of games now, like major games, are actually releasing their games a little too early, like Assassin's Creed, Unity, they released it too early, will have bugs and stuff. But, mainly indie games, there's a such thing called early access on Steam, which basically allows you to play a game early on, but it's not finished. No, it's not finished yet, but you're allowed to play the game early on. It might seem good because it's looking a lot of indie game developers because they don't have the money right now, and if they're like halfway making a game and they're like, oh, money, they can continue making the game. However, you get so much money sometimes, like, what's the point of making a game already if you already have the money that you need to live? So that could be a problem. Some games never get finished and stuff. Some games that are in early access right now, like Daisy, Prison Architect, and there's some other.
Nailed it!
And then came out the mid-2000s, where their indie games just exploded. Internet's out there, so it's much easier to distribute your products and stuff. And there was consoles are finally noticing, oh, indie games, that's cool. So 2006, Microsoft has released a new free development kit called the XNA for PC Macs. And like that's great because like no one has really done this before. They noticed that indie games is really quite popular. So then also Nintendo and then Sony has also released them. These are cheap to distribute your game on phones like the Apple Store or the Microsoft Store. And also Google and Amazon has also released their own development kits for like everyone. They're not cheap, but they're a hell of a lot cheaper than like the major like AAA, which is good. So a lot of more people are now making their own games. This is good. There's tons of games now. Like Warcraft also could be very bad because there's so many people now making their own games. There's, there's a lot of competition, and who knows how indie games and indie game developers are going to be in the future. So far, it's been amazing, but technology changes really quickly now, so only time could tell. But I think it's only going to get better.
Yeah, I mean, I know there's a philosophy that, somebody else had the same idea for a game that I did, so that means my idea isn't good, and, well, I don't know, I don't really buy into that personally. I think, if I have an idea, if you and I both have, like, the same rough idea for a game, the way that we implement it is going to be way different, and so I think there's room for that, in terms of, I think there's room for both of that. Both of the way that we actually execute it. And I don't know, I think I don't know if I'd say that there's a lot of competition necessarily. I mean, I feel like, all of us indie developers are really supportive of what everybody's trying to do. And I think that's awesome. But I do sort of feel like maybe there is a chance that, well, there are a lot of video games out there, and it's only getting sort of more and more crowded as more and more people get into it, and then it just becomes like more of a challenge to be how do you make your game be unique and something that people are excited about. Like nowadays there are indie games which are being made by teams with pretty sizable budgets and people who have worked professionally and are making a good amount of money from it. So it's it's basically like, I don't know what to say. Basically like anything where, they're making it not to, not as part of like a big AAA studio, trying to answering to their shareholders or whatever, but more just, trying to do something which, they love and which they learn how to do and is on their own terms and such. I think it's going to be a lot of sort of expansion of audience. Like we're already kind of seeing this where, they're being targeted to, to demographics sort of outside what AAA goes after or what casual goes after. So I think there's going to be a lot of that. I think there's also going to be a lot of sort of bringing in not just video games, but also kind of more physical activities. Like if you ever heard of something called Johann Sebastian Joust. I think there's going to be a lot lot of things like that in the future, where it's like, it's kind of like part video game, but also kind of part, physical activity out there with other people, not just in front of the television, that type of thing.
There's also many game engines that came out and tools that help in-game development, like the game engine Unity. Which is like 12 different platforms like PC, Mac, and then you got Xbox, PlayStation, Wii's, like you got like phones and stuff. And wow.
I mainly use Unity right now. I've in the past just worked with JavaScript to actually do the programming. In terms of the design and art and such, I use things like Fireworks and OmniGraffle, and just to name a few.
What was the definition of indie game? And that basically is, by Wikipedia's terms, a game made by a small group or individual without any publisher, finance, or any help from them. So, half of that is true, because indie games don't really need to be made by a small group. Depends how you think of what is small, because Telltale, they made the games The Walking Dead and Wolf Among Us.
There's no walking on the grass, no White's orders. She made a sign and everything.
I'll be sure to send her an apology.
Bigby, hey, wait up. Have you seen my wife? Have you seen Beauty? Mother.
And those are point-and-click story games, are very difficult, hard choices to make. And guess what? Made by 200 people, a whole studio of 200 people. Whoa! So indie games are really going out there. They're no longer just those two guys in the basement working on the indie game. Not anymore. Now it's like blown up. For example, the Global Game Jam is another record-breaking year in 2018, where there's over 28,000 people joined in many different teams of like individuals to like up to like 6 people, 9 people, a bunch of people, and all in 78 countries. And it's like, it's everywhere. Indie games are everywhere now.
Yeah, so Game Jam is basically an event where you're given like a theme or some kind of inspiration for making a game, and then you just have a timeline to go make it. It's not always judged or anything. It's just here's your opportunity to go make something. Try something different, go make something and put it out there. It's I found it to be really, really successful and inspirational. So like the Global Game Jam and Ludum Dare. Those are actually just over a weekend, so they're super fast. Some people have done it like in as little as here's 4 hours. Some of them go on a little bit longer. Like I've done stuff that lasts for up to a month. It's a game jam that they run every year. Obviously, given the name, it's kind of meant to be all around the world. They have, they encourage people to set up locations wherever they are and just have people show up and go make a game in person. Every year they just have like a different theme. The theme this year was called What Do We Do Now? I think in previous years there have been other sayings, and one year I think it was even just like the sound of a heartbeat. And again, it's just like intended to give you some way to like get started with making your game. And they have keynote speakers, and they have other things. This year they actually had what they called diversifiers, which were like sort of little mini optional themes that you could use to add a little bit more flavor to your game. Things like having diversity in your player characters, or being able to play the game offline or with other people, things like that. So it's just kind of ways for you to take on challenges that you think are interesting. I did the Global Game Jam last month, and I was part of a team of 6. It was me, it was 2 artists, a level designer, a level builder, and a sound guy. And then previously I did Ludum Dare back in April of last year, and it was me and an artist doing a game. So yeah, it's you can do it solo or you can do it collaboratively too. It's obviously everything's got its ups and downs. What I like about working with other people is you can have other people sort of fill in the gaps of what you're not as good at. So, like for me, I'm a good programmer, but I'm not as experienced as the art side. So pairing with an artist is great. The two of us can make something, together that neither one of us could do on our own. So that's always awesome. And yeah, it's just as long as, like you can keep yourself organized and everything like that, then yeah, it's worth it.
Some games definitely feel like indie games, like Valiant Hearts. When I saw them, like, yeah, this is definitely indie game. I played them, like, yes, this has got to be indie game. And no, it is not. It is published by Ubisoft. It's so weird because it's like a 2D, beautiful graphics, and it's not like a AAA game or explosion stuff. It's more like a story-driven game. You don't even pick up a single rifle in the game and shoot it. It feels so indie, but it's not. I'm like, what the hell? Some say also indie games have to be low budget to be a true indie game. But Journey, that's an indie game on PlayStation 3. They kept funded a whole buttload from Sony, and that is just what that is indie shape. Like, what about Minecraft? That was funded with a very low budget. It was basically made by one guy, Notch. However, that sold millions of copies of games on Xbox and PC and even PlayStation now. And that is up to where the AAA games, major AAA games, like Call of Duty, like that's crazy. They have t-shirts and everything. But now Mojang has sold Minecraft off to Microsoft. You might be like thinking, oh hell no, how could they take away my favorite game? But Mojang does not want to have the burden of Minecraft. It's so popular, so many things going on. They don't want to have the burden anymore. They have like millions of dollars, bazillions of dollars, like lots of money, and they still want to work on indie games. They want to work on their own thing. They don't want to continuously just update Minecraft, which is pretty cool. I respect. And also, if you ask a lot of indie game developers what would they do with a huge budget, they would probably also go with like small indie games. Some might go with like huge play games, but they are really risky because it's like a high budget and lots of time spent, and people might not even like it. And it's like indie game spirit, man. Oh yeah! There's so many indie games out there now that is being classified into its own genre or type, like racing, RTS, RPG, and then it's like indie games. Like Steam has done this, Xbox and PlayStation. Good movie. A movie on Netflix! But like, what really? I mean, it's kind of like that. It's basically indie games. There's so many out there and so many different genres of games. It's basically just video games. It's like a different form of video games. It's like the boundaries between video games and indie games are just like almost kind of gone. There are indie games out there where people don't actually think they're actual games, like the Stanley Parable or Presentable Liberty, because you don't need too much. I mean, you just walk around, maybe do like certain choices, but you need a person to progress in the game. So it's still considered a game, and if it's just a movie, then you can just like sit or watch, or you just leave, and the movie still goes on. You need a person, so yes, or there's games out there where it's kind of really weird and crazy, like Iron Bread, like the name says it all. They're literally a slice bread. But these people don't know that there's many other indie games where they would really interest. Like, let's say they do like stealth games, so they play major AAA games like Metal Gear Solid, Splinter Cell, and Hitman. But they might also like a game called Escapist, where you're supposed to escape out of prison. And it's awesome, you need stuff like that. Or let's say the person really likes RPGs, like Elder Scrolls or Fallout series. Well, they also might like Legends of Grimlock or Darkest Dungeon. That some people stay away from indie games because of the title. Like, oh jeez, I don't want to play indie games. That's like a weird, smaller game. I don't want to play that. I won't put as much as hours into that. But actually, it could be just as fun as the major AAA games. On Steam, on the top 10 list, there's like, you see Grand Theft Auto 5 and stuff. But however, you also see, like above that, you see like major indie games like Darkest Dungeon. Like, wow, like people they're just as good. So, if you never played any indie games in your life, now is the time because I informed you.
So I have 4 games out right now. I started with a game called Swifty Beans, which was for back in February of last year, so about a year ago. And it's it was kind of like when Flappy Bird was super popular, and that had just gotten happened. It was removed from the App Store, but people really liked it, and the theme of the game jam was to kind of mimic what made it popular, which was like take some very simple but like extremely horrifically difficult gameplay, and then have visuals that are kind of closely inspired and very sort of very indicative of like old school retro Nintendo games, and make a game out of that. And I did something. If you've ever played Mega Man 2.
No, I haven't played Mega Man.
Okay. Yeah, so there's like this very famous part of the game where you're falling, and then there are like these instant death beams that are shooting at you from either side, and I made a game based on that, and it actually turned out really well. It's still in some ways kind of my favorite game, but and just like the fact that it was kind of my first one to actually be published, I'm pretty happy with it. A lot of people like them. A lot of people like the type of systems that I put in them. One of my other games, you play as like a siren from Greek mythology, and you have to balance like swimming underwater with singing to people and like how much breath do you have left and that type of thing. That was another kind of that was one of the Ludum Dare game I was talking about. And so like a lot of people kind of like that kind of like system feedback where you have to sort of balance things. Yeah, it's pretty awesome. It's like you did this, and now other people, you watch other people enjoy it, and it's just this feeling of constructiveness. Like you feel like you really gave something of yourself, and other people are seeing it, and and everything of that. The hardest thing, I would say it's just kind of getting the time together to do it. I mean, it's not hard to make like something that you can play, but making something that really functions as a game, that takes a lot of effort. It's a lot of polishing the little things and everything, title screens and UIs and level design and all that content stuff. Like I think that's just the hardest part of it. I think it's just that moment when you've sort of spent a lot of time trying to do a feature, and like you nail it. And it finally works the way that you wanted it to.
So what if you had being an indie game developer as a job? Well, first of all, being an indie game developer is art, and having a job in some sort of art, and like a profession in art, it's a little tricky, and it's really hard. You have to like push through, because you're not really gonna get all that much money or appreciation, but you really have to have like passion and doing what you love like every day, and put a lot of hard work into what you do, and you do have to do some sacrifices to get something great, which is a quote from Indie Game the Movie, which is a really good movie, and it shows the everyday life, and what the indie game developers go through. And there's a lot of struggles, but there's also a lot of like glory and awesomeness if you push through hard enough and do things right. Yeah, that explains very well on what it actually being an indie game developer actually is. In this documentary, I haven't really explained much, really. So, but that documentary is really good. You gotta watch it. For anybody, I would recommend this to anybody, but especially if you want to pursue any sort of art, especially indie game, being an indie game developer, or like just a game developer, or whatever. It is similar to like film too. So, and if you can get the extra special content or stuff, it's like $2.50 more. So it's on sale right now, so like $5, and then if you want the extra content, it's $2.50 more. So I would recommend getting that too, but it's go on the website and get it from there. But it's a really good. It just like it's so emotional. It's just a really good documentary. So I really recommend you to watch that. But you know, like I said, it's not easy being an indie game developer. Okay, so you really gotta know: is this what I really want in life? Is this my passion? Is this what I want to pursue? And there's like a bazillion other things in life and stuff. So you gotta understand that. And you know, like you also have to think about it like logically. So plans like, you know, like getting a new computer, $800 or more dollars, like a good one to handle with all your game stuff, coding and all that. And then also you need a bunch of softwares you gotta buy, and then you also have to buy, you know, if you're having a studio, that's even more, because you got like electricity, and you gotta have, like, everybody has to have a computer, everybody has to have programs. So they're like, oh geez. So that's why a lot of them stay in their houses first, and they're trying to push out their game as quick as, you know, well, not as quick as possible, but they don't want, you know, you gotta know your budget, right? So you gotta know your budget before going into this kind of situation, because like, okay, I got this much money to spend, but there's also things like, oh shoot, someone's car broke down, we gotta lend them a little money, you know, you gotta, you know, save a little bit of money just in case some things bad happen, which probably will, and also you gotta know balance, you gotta know your money, because you're gonna spend a lot of time also business and money if you found your own company and stuff. So yeah.
And it's just, you know, kind of don't be afraid to do a lot of different things, you know, try coding, try animation and art and everything like that, and just, you know, do what other people aren't doing, and that's the whole reason indie games exist. And consider it for a job. But, you know, worst case scenario is it's a cool hobby. For me, it's just, you know, being able to look back and, you know, have done cool things and shared them with people. You know, like, that's the main thing. It's, you know, it's a hobby to me, so, you know, making money isn't the number one thing. It's more just making something that I like and that other people like.